Nearly 70 merchant vessels under the Panamanian flag were detained by China in a matter of weeks. Panama's Supreme Court had just invalidated a port concession from 1997. By early April 2026, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio denounced the use of economic tools to undermine the rule of law in Panama. But at the heart of this conflict was a question that almost no one asked. Why do so many ships in the world fly a flag that doesn't belong to their owners? The answer is a tax technicality, a legal tweak that began as a gimmick to serve alcohol on the high seas and ended up controlling the backbone of world trade. The story begins in the 1920s in the United States. Prohibition banned the sale of alcohol, but ship owners found a loophole. All they had to do was register the ship in Panama to serve drinks without breaking U.S. law. When Prohibition ended, those ship owners discovered that the Panamanian flag offered something more valuable than cocktails on deck: looser labor and tax regulations. Crews paid lower wages, exemption from income tax. They didn't go back home. The model was born, though the term flag at convenience wouldn't be coined until the 50s. The concept was as simple as it was subversive. A ship could be built in South Korea, owned by a Greek company, chartered by a Japanese consortium, and sail under the Panamanian flag. The jurisdiction that mattered wasn't the owners, it was the one on paper. A ship's nationality stopped being a physical fact and became an administrative decision. But if that was just a ship owner's trick, how did it become the scaffolding of global trade? The answer lay in Liberia. In 1968, this small country on Africa's Atlantic coast overtook the United Kingdom as the world's largest ship registry. The nation that had ruled the seas for 3 centuries fell behind a country whose merchant registry was, in practice, a paper operation. You didn't need to build a single hull to become a maritime power. All you had to do was sell flags and collect registration fees. British ship owners weren't abandoning the merchant navy. They were simply reflagging it. Regulatory arbitrage had beaten the admiralty. Since then, the gap between the flag and the wallet has only widened. By early 2026, the cargo capacity of the world fleet reached 2.5 billion deadweight tons. More than half of those vessels, measured by tonnage, are registered in open registries. Greece is the largest individual owner, with 397 million tons. China owns 377 million, and Japan 243. Asia controls 56% of global capacity, Europe 34%, North America barely 4%. Paper supplanted steel, and yet the world's 3 largest registries aren't any of those countries. They are Liberia with 447 million tons, Panama with 350, and the Marshall Islands with 318. Together, these 3 tiny island states account for roughly 49.3% of the planet's cargo capacity. That is, countries that don't build ships. 91% of the vessels completed in 2025 came out of shipyards in China, South Korea, or Japan. Control jurisdiction over most of the world fleet. And the countries that do build and own them have surrendered that jurisdiction voluntarily for a reason as prosaic as tax savings. The flag became an accounting decision, not an act of sovereignty. For traditional maritime nations, the drain on tonnage became a hemorrhage. Starting in 1984, they tried to compete by creating second registries: the Isle of Man, Norway, France, Germany. The French and German registries are still considered flags of convenience in 2025. The line between what was legal and what was merely convenient had blurred. But the system's most fragile link was still missing. What happened when someone decided to stop pretending? When Panama tried to assert its sovereignty on paper, the system showed its most exposed side. At the end of January 2026, Panama's Supreme Court gave the answer. It invalidated the legal framework of the 1997 concession to Panama Ports Company, linked to the Hong Kong conglomerate C.K. Hutchison, to operate the Balboa and Cristobal terminals in the Panama Canal. The canal handles roughly 5% of global maritime trade. C.K. Hutchison rejected the ruling, denounced an illegal confiscation, and launched an international arbitration, claiming more than $2 billion. What began as a contractual dispute became, within weeks, a geopolitical conflict. Since March 8, 2026, Chinese authorities have detained nearly 70 Panamanian-flagged vessels, a figure well above historical averages. The signal wasn't the absolute number, but the speed and direction of the measure. The United States Federal Maritime Commission detected a pattern. On April 2nd, Marco Rubio declared that those detentions raised serious concerns about the use of economic tools to undermine the rule of law in Panama. The Chinese spokesperson in Washington, Liu Pengyu, replied that the unfounded accusations from the United States only revealed its intention to take control of the canal. Two powers in confrontation, and in the middle, a flag of convenience that suited no one anymore. The paradox was devastating. The flag of convenience system was designed to evade control. Registering a ship in Panama or Liberia meant escaping the labor, tax, and safety regulations of the country of origin. That back door became the main lobby. But when evading control is the rule, control is exercised by whoever has the force to stop the ship, not by whoever issued the paper. The Panamanian flag, which had served to evade jurisdictions for a century, suddenly protected no one from the most powerful jurisdiction in the Pacific. Naval recycling closes the circle. In 2025, 80% of shipbreaking took place in India, Bangladesh, or Turkey. Ships are born in Asian shipyards, sail under Central American or African flags, and die on beaches in South Asia. At no point in their useful life are they subject to the jurisdiction of the country that builds them, nor the one that owns them, nor the one that scraps them. A merchant ship is, in legal terms, a nomad. It belongs nowhere. The hull travels, the paper stays behind. And that detachment, which began as a tax trick in the 20s, is now the norm of world trade. The flag of convenience was born to circumvent a dry law. A century later, it has become the invisible scaffolding of globalization. More than half of the world's merchant ships fly a flag that isn't theirs. And when a geopolitical conflict erupts in that theater of fictions, reality strikes with the force of a container full of debts. It all began with a fiscal technicality. But today, whoever controls the registries controls the world's routes. And whoever controls the routes controls trade. Just change a flag and everything changes.